Lisa Morgan stood on the bridge of her ship and looked at the biggest fleet she had ever seen. The alien ships filled the space in front of Earth like a wall of metal and death. She counted them quickly in her head but stopped when she reached 200. There were too many to count, and more kept coming through the jump gates. Her ship was called the Defiant, and it was one of the best ships humans had ever built. But looking at the enemy fleet made it feel like a toy boat facing a hurricane. The aliens called themselves the Zephyrian Empire, and they had come to Earth with a simple message: surrender or die. Lieutenant Jake Sullivan turned around from his station and looked at Lisa with worried eyes. His face was pale and his hands shook a little as he spoke. Commander, we have 47 ships total. They have over 300. And their ships are twice the size of ours. Lisa nodded but kept her eyes on the screen. She had been a soldier for 15 years and had seen bad situations before, but this was different. This was not just about winning or losing a battle. This was about the future of the human race. The communication system made a sound and Admiral Peter Kane appeared on the screen. He was sitting in his office back on Earth, and Lisa could see the worry on his old face. Behind him she could see other officers running around with papers and looking scared. Lisa, the situation is worse than we thought, Kane said. His voice was tired and heavy. The Zephyrians claim we broke some old law. When we built our colony on Kepler 442b, they say that planet belongs to them even though we found no signs of life there. Lisa frowned. The colony on Kepler 442b was home to 50,000 humans. They had been living there for 5 years and had built farms and schools and hospitals. It was a good place for humans to live, and they had worked hard to make it home. What do they want us to do? Lisa asked, even though she already knew the answer. They want us to abandon all our colonies outside the solar system. They want us to destroy our ships and never leave Earth again. They want us to become their servants. Kane said. The words came out of his mouth like they tasted bad. Lisa felt anger rise in her chest. Humans had worked for hundreds of years to reach the stars. They had built ships and learned to travel between worlds. They had found new places to live and had made friends with other species. Now these aliens wanted to take it all away. How long do we have? She asked. 12 hours, Kane said. After that, they will attack Earth and destroy every human ship and city they can find. The bridge became very quiet. Lisa looked around at her crew and saw the fear in their eyes. Some of them had families on Earth, others had friends on the colonies. All of them knew that 12 hours was not enough time to save everyone. The communication system made another sound, and this time an alien face appeared on the screen. It was like looking at a giant lizard that could talk. Its skin was silver, and its eyes were cold and yellow. When it spoke, its voice was deep and full of hate. Human vessel, this is Supreme Admiral Vexstar of the Zephyrian Empire. You will power down your weapons and prepare to be boarded. Your species has committed crimes against the sacred laws of our empire. Lisa stepped forward so the alien could see her clearly. She was not a tall woman, but she stood straight and looked directly into the alien's yellow eyes. This is Commander Lisa Morgan of the United Earthship Defiant. We reject your demands. The alien's eyes became smaller, and its mouth opened to show sharp teeth. You are making a mistake, human. We have conquered 23 worlds and destroyed 15 species that refuse to obey us. Your ships are weak and your weapons are like toys compared to ours. Lisa felt her crew watching her. She knew they were scared, and she was scared too. But she also knew that some things were more important than being safe. Freedom was one of those things. The right to live where you wanted and go where you chose was worth fighting for. Maybe our ships are not as strong as yours, Lisa said. Maybe we do not have as many weapons. But we have something you do not understand. The alien made a sound like laughing, but it was not a happy sound. What could you possibly have that we do not? Lisa smiled, and her voice became stronger. We have the courage to say no? The alien's face became very angry. You will regret this decision, human. In 12 hours we will begin the destruction of your pathetic species. You could have died quickly, but now you will suffer. The screen went dark and Lisa turned to face her crew. They were all looking at her with different expressions. Some looked scared, some looked angry, and some looked ready to fight. She knew that the next 12 hours would decide the fate of humanity. "All hands, this is the commander," she said. "Into the ship's communication system. We have been given a choice. We can surrender and watch our species become slaves, or we can fight and show these aliens what humans are made of." She paused and looked out at the enemy fleet again. The alien ships were moving into attack positions and their weapons were beginning to charge with energy. Soon they would be ready to destroy Earth and everything humans had built. "I know the odds are bad," Lisa continued. "I know we are outnumbered and outgunned. But I also know that we are human beings and we do not give up without a fight. We will stand here and protect our home and our people. We will show the galaxy that humans do not kneel to anyone." The crew began to work faster. Jake Sullivan started preparing the weapon systems. Amy Brooks began checking the engines. All around the bridge people were getting ready for the fight of their lives. Lisa looked at the countdown timer on her screen. 11 hours and 57 minutes until the Zephyrians would attack. She had been ordered to surrender. She had not even flinched. The hours passed slowly as Lisa and her crew prepared for battle. The Zephyrian fleet stayed in formation, their ships arranged in perfect lines that stretched across space. Their weapons glowed with purple energy and their engines hummed with power. Lisa had never seen anything so beautiful or so terrifying. Amy Brooks worked at the engineering station, her fingers flying over the controls. She was the best engineer in the human fleet, and Lisa trusted her completely. But even Amy looked worried as she studied the power readings from the enemy ships. "Commander, their technology is at least 50 years ahead of ours," Amy said. "Their shields are stronger and their weapons hit harder. In a straight fight we will lose badly," Lisa nodded. She had expected this, but hearing it out loud made it feel more real. "What options do we have?" Amy was quiet for a moment as she thought. Then her eyes lit up with an idea that made Lisa both hopeful and afraid. "We could overload our fusion reactors. If we time it right and get close enough to their fleet, we could create a chain reaction that would damage their ships." "What would happen to us?" Lisa asked, even though she already knew the answer. "We would not survive," Amy said simply. "None of us would. But we might be able to take a lot of them with us." Lisa felt a cold feeling in her stomach. She had known this mission might end badly, but she had hoped there would be another way. Now she was faced with asking her crew to die for their beliefs. Jake Sullivan looked up from his station. "Commander, I am picking up communications from the other human ships. They want to know what the plan is." Lisa opened a channel to the entire human fleet. On her screen she could see the faces of the other ship commanders. Captain Ben Torres of the destroyer Vengeance looked determined. Captain Nicole Hayes of the cruiser Liberty looked scared but ready. All of them were waiting for her to tell them what to do. "This is Commander Morgan," she said. "We all know the situation. We are outnumbered and outgunned. The enemy has given us a choice between surrender and death. But I think there is a third option." She paused and looked at each face on the screen. These were good people who had families and dreams and hopes for the future. She was about to ask them to give up everything. "We can make our deaths count," she continued. "We can show the galaxy that humans do not go quietly into the dark. We can hurt them badly enough that they will think twice before attacking another peaceful species." Captain Torres spoke first. "Lisa, if we are going to die anyway, we might as well die fighting. The Vengeance is with you." One by one, the other commanders agreed. Some of them had tears in their eyes, but all of them were ready to fight. Lisa felt proud and sad at the same time. She was proud of their courage and sad that it had come to this. The countdown timer showed 2 hours remaining. The Zephyrian fleet began to move, their ships spreading out to surround the human vessels. Lisa could see smaller ships launching from the enemy carriers, probably fighters that would attack first. All ships began moving toward the enemy fleet. Lisa ordered, "Stay close together and do not break formation until I give the order." The human ships began to move forward like a small arrow aimed at a giant target. The Zephyrians seemed surprised by this move. Their communications increased and their formation began to change. Amy worked frantically at her station, preparing the reactor overload sequence. Commander, I need at least 5 minutes to get the reactors ready. The other ships will need the same amount of time. Lisa nodded and opened the fleet channel again. All ships, you heard that? We need 5 minutes to prepare. Keep moving forward and return fire when they attack us. The first Zephyrian fighters reached the human fleet and began shooting. Their weapons were bright beams of energy that cut through space like swords. The human ships fired back with missiles and laser cannons. Several fighters exploded in bright flashes of light. Captain Hayes' ship, the Liberty, was hit by multiple enemy beams. Lisa watched in horror as the ship's hull began to crack and atmosphere leaked out into space. Nicole, get your people to the escape pods, Lisa ordered. Negative, Commander, Hayes replied. We still have weapons and we still have fight left. In us, more enemy fighters swarmed around the human fleet. The larger Zephyrian ships began to move closer, their main weapons charging for the final attack. Lisa could see the purple energy building up in their cannons. Amy, how much more time do you need? Lisa asked. 3 minutes, Commander. The reactors are almost ready. The space around the human fleet filled with weapons fire. Missiles and energy beams flew in all directions. The destroyer Vengeance took a direct hit from a Zephyrian cruiser and half of its hull was torn away. But Captain Torres kept fighting. His remaining weapons still firing at the enemy, Lisa watched her friends die and felt anger burn in her chest. The Zephyrians thought humans were weak because they were peaceful. They thought humans would surrender because they were afraid. They were about to learn how wrong they were. 2 minutes, Amy announced. The enemy is pulling back. I think they have detected the energy buildup. Lisa looked at her screen and saw that Amy was right. The Zephyrian ships were moving away from the human fleet, their sensors warning them that something was wrong. But they were too late. The human ships had gotten too close and there was no time to escape. All ships, prepare for reactor overload, Lisa ordered. It has been an honor to serve with you. The replies came back from the surviving ships. Honor. To serve with you, Commander. See you on the other side. Tell them we were here. Lisa looked around the bridge at her crew. They were all at their stations, doing their jobs even though they knew death was coming. She had never been more proud of anything in her life. 1 minute, Amy said. Commander, I want you to know that serving under you has been the best part of my career. Lisa smiled even though tears were running down her face. Thank you, Amy. Everyone, brace for impact. The countdown reached 0, and the human ships exploded in brilliant flashes of light. The energy from their overloaded reactors spread out like a wave, rushing toward the Zephyrian fleet at the speed of light. Lisa had one last thought before the end came. She hoped it would be enough. Lisa opened her eyes and was surprised to find herself still alive. The bridge of the Defiant was dark and filled with smoke, but she could hear the sound of her crew moving around. Her head hurt and her ears were ringing, but she was breathing, and her heart was beating. Report, she said in a weak voice. Jake Sullivan looked up from his station. His face was covered in blood from a cut on his forehead, but he was smiling. Commander, you need to see this. Lisa pulled herself up and looked. At the main screen, what she saw made her gasp. The space in front of them was filled with the wreckage of Zephyrian ships. Huge pieces of metal floated in the darkness, and she could see the broken hulls of enemy vessels spinning slowly in the void. How many of their ships are left? She asked. 47, Commander, but most of them are not moving. We are picking up very few life signs from the enemy fleet. Lisa could not believe what she was hearing. The explosion that was supposed to kill them had instead destroyed most of the enemy fleet. She looked around and saw that several other human ships were still intact. They were damaged, but they were alive. Amy Brooks' voice came over the intercom. Commander, I think I know what happened. The energy wave from our reactors interfered with their power systems. Their ships used some kind of neural network to control everything, and the energy pulse scrambled their computers. Lisa felt a mix of joy and confusion. They had won a battle they were supposed to lose. But she also felt sad when she thought about the human ships that had been destroyed. Good people had died to make this victory possible. "Open a channel to the surviving human ships," she ordered. Captain Torres appeared on the screen. His ship was badly damaged, but he was grinning. "Lisa, did you see what we did? We actually beat them." Other commanders joined the communication. Captain Hayes was injured but alive. Captain Sam Rodriguez of the cruiser Guardian had lost half his crew, but his ship was still fighting. All of them were amazed that they had survived. "What are your orders, Commander?" Captain Torres asked. Lisa looked at the enemy ships floating helplessly in space. Some of them were sending out distress signals. She could see escape pods launching from the damaged vessels. The Zephyrians who had wanted to destroy humanity were now asking for help. "Begin rescue operations," she said. "Save anyone you can, human or alien." The other commanders looked shocked. Captain Rodriguez spoke first. "Commander, these are the same aliens who wanted to enslave us. Why should we help them?" Lisa thought about this for a moment. She remembered the hatred in Admiral Vextar eyes when he had threatened to destroy Earth. She remembered how the Zephyrians had given humanity 12 hours to surrender or die. It would be easy to leave them floating in space to die. "Because that is what makes us different from them," she said finally. "We do not abandon people who need help, even if they are our enemies." The rescue operations began immediately. Human ships moved carefully through the wreckage, looking for survivors. Lisa watched as her crew worked to save Zephyrian soldiers who had been ready to kill them just hours before Dr. Helen Carter, the chief medical officer, came to the bridge to give Lisa a report. "Commander, we have rescued over 300 Zephyrian survivors. Most of them are injured, but they will live. The interesting thing is how they are reacting to our help." "What do you mean?" Lisa asked. "They seem confused," Dr. Carter said. "They keep asking why we are helping them. Apparently their culture does not include the concept of showing mercy to defeated enemies." Lisa went down to the medical bay to see the rescued Zephyrians for herself. They were lying in hospital beds, being treated by human doctors and nurses. Some of them looked at her with fear, others with confusion. One of them, a young soldier with bright green scales, tried to sit up when she entered. "You are the human." "Commander," he said in broken English, "why do you help us?" "We came to destroy your people." Lisa sat down next to his bed. "Because you are hurt and we can help. That is reason enough." The young soldier stared at her for a long moment. "I do not understand." "In our empire, the strong destroy the weak. The victor takes everything from the defeated." "This is the way of nature." "Maybe," Lisa said. "But we believe there is a better way. We believe that helping each other makes us all stronger." News of the battle spread quickly through the galaxy. Within hours, Lisa was receiving messages from species she had never heard of. The Altarian Collective sent congratulations. The Vegan Trade Federation offered to establish diplomatic relations. The Tau Ceti Alliance wanted to set up trade agreements. Admiral Kane contacted her from Earth. His face on the screen looked 10 years younger than it had that morning. "Lisa, the entire galaxy is talking about what you did. Not just the victory, but how you treated the survivors. You have made humanity famous." Lisa was still trying to process everything that had happened. "Sir, I just did what felt right. I could not leave people to die, even if they were our enemies." "That is exactly why everyone wants to talk to us," Kane said. "Most species in the galaxy follow the law of the jungle. The strong dominate the weak and mercy is seen as weakness. But you showed them something different." Over the next few days, more alien ships arrived at Earth, but these were not warships. They were diplomatic vessels carrying ambassadors and trade representatives. Captain Nicole Hayes was put in charge of greeting them and setting up meetings. "Lisa, I have 17 different species wanting to meet with human leaders," Hayes reported. "They all want to know more about our culture and our values. But not everyone in the galaxy was happy about humanity's sudden fame. In the dark corners of space, other empires began to make plans. The Dominion of Keth saw humans as a threat to their way of life. The Hegemony of Worlds feared that human ideas about mercy and cooperation would spread to their own subjects. General Thane Korax of the Dominion sent a message to his allies. The humans are dangerous because they make others question the natural order. They must be stopped before their ideas spread further. Lisa stood on the observation deck of her ship and looked out at the stars. Earth was behind her, save for... Now, the human colonies were still there, still free. But she knew that this was just the beginning. The galaxy was a big place full of different species with different ideas about how to live. Some of them would become friends. Others would become enemies. But humans had shown that they could stand up for what they believed in, even when the odds were impossible. They had proven that mercy was not weakness, but the highest form of strength. The young Zephyrian soldier she had spoken with came to stand beside her. His injuries were healing, and he would be going home soon. Commander, I've been thinking about what you said. About helping each other, making us stronger. Lisa nodded. What do you think? I think maybe you are right, he said. I think maybe there is a better way to live than just following the law of the jungle. When I return to my people, I will tell them about the humans who saved their enemies. Lisa smiled. That is all we can ask for. That people will listen and maybe learn something new. The stars stretched out before them, full of possibility and danger, but Lisa was not afraid. Humanity had found its place in the galaxy, and they would face whatever came next together. 6 months had passed since the battle that changed everything. Lisa stood in the command center of the New Earth Embassy on Nexus Prime, the neutral world where different species came to meet and trade. Through the large windows she could see ships from dozens of different worlds coming and going. The building around her was busy with activity. Human diplomats walked through the halls talking with aliens of all shapes and sizes. She could hear at least 10 different languages being spoken at once. It was chaos, but it was the kind of chaos that meant progress. Captain Nicole Hayes approached her with a datapad full of reports. Commander, we have received formal requests for trade agreements from 23 different species. The Altarian Collective wants to share their medical technology with us. The Vegan Trade Federation is offering to teach us their farming techniques. Lisa nodded as she read through the reports. It was hard to believe how much had changed in such a short time. Before the battle, humans had been alone in the galaxy, struggling to survive. Now they were being invited to join the galactic community as equals. What about the Zephyrians? She asked. They have been our strongest supporters, Hayes said. Former Admiral Vexstar has become their new leader, and he speaks for us in the Galactic Council. He says that humans taught his people about honor and mercy. Lisa remembered the proud alien who had demanded their surrender just months before. The neural feedback from the energy pulse had changed him, just as it had changed many of his people. They were still the same species, but they thought differently now about strength and weakness. Dr. Helen Carter joined them at the window. She had been working with alien scientists to understand what had happened during the battle. Commander, I have some interesting news. The energy pulse did not just scramble their computers, it actually changed how their brains work. Lisa raised an eyebrow. Changed how? The Zephyrians evolved with a neural network that connects all members of their species. It makes them very efficient but also very aggressive. The energy pulse disrupted that network and made them more individual. They can now think for themselves instead of just following the group. This explained a lot about what Lisa had seen. The young soldier who had questioned his beliefs. Admiral Vexstar becoming an advocate for peace. The Zephyrians were becoming more like humans in how they thought about right and wrong, but not everyone was happy about these changes. Intelligence. Reports showed that several aggressive species were forming an alliance against humanity. The Dominion of Keth, the Hegemony of Worlds, and the Savage clans were all preparing for war. General Thane Korax had been very clear about his intentions. The humans are a disease that must be cut out before it spreads. Their ideas about mercy and cooperation will destroy the natural order of the galaxy. Lisa knew that another war was coming. The species that ruled through fear and violence saw humans as a threat to their way of life. They would not allow human ideas to spread without a fight. Captain Ben Torres contacted her from the patrol ship Vengeance. His face on the screen looked worried. Lisa, we are picking up military buildups in the Kethan hegemony systems. They are moving ships and supplies like they are preparing for a major offensive. Lisa felt a familiar weight in her chest. She had hoped that the victory over the Zephyrians would bring peace, but it seemed like it had only made some species more determined to destroy humanity. How many ships are we talking about? She asked. At least 500, maybe more, and these are not like the Zephyrians. The Kethan hegemony specialize in warfare. Their ships are built for nothing but killing. Lisa looked around the embassy, at all the different species working together. Humans were sharing their technology and knowledge freely. Aliens were teaching humans about their cultures and histories. It was beautiful and fragile, and it might all be destroyed soon. Admiral Kane appeared on another screen. He was calling from Earth, where he was coordinating the defense preparations. Lisa, we have been analyzing the threat. The enemy alliance has us outnumbered 10-1. Even with our new allies, we cannot match their firepower. But Lisa had an idea. Sir, what if we do not try to match their firepower? What if we use the same strategy that worked against the Zephyrians? Kane looked skeptical. The reactor overload? Lisa, that was a desperate move that only worked because we got lucky. We cannot count on luck again. Not the overload, Lisa said. The energy pulse, Dr. Carter says it changed how the Zephyrians think. What if we could do the same thing to the other aggressive species? Dr. Carter stepped forward. Commander, I have been studying the neural patterns of different species. Many of them have similar network structures to the Zephyrians. A properly designed energy pulse could affect them in the same way. But this idea raised difficult questions. Lisa remembered how the energy pulse had changed the Zephyrians without their permission. It had made them more peaceful and cooperative, but it had also taken away part of what made them who they were. Are we talking about forcing our values on other species? Lisa asked. That does not seem right. Dr. Carter nodded. It is a difficult ethical question. But the alternative might be the destruction of human civilization and the deaths of billions of innocent people. Lisa thought about this for a long time. She had always believed that people should be free to choose their own path. But what if some people chose to hurt others? What if their path led to the destruction of everything good in the galaxy? The young Zephyrian soldier she had met before came to visit her. His name was Zethkar, and he had become a student of human culture. He was learning to read human books and listen to human music. Commander Morgan, he said, I have heard rumors about the coming war. My people want to fight alongside yours. If it comes to battle, Lisa was touched by his loyalty. Zethkar, you do not have to fight our battles. Your people have already done enough by speaking for us in the council. But we want to help, he said. You saved us from ourselves. You showed us that there is more to life than conquest and domination. We owe you everything. Lisa realized that this was about more than just winning a war. It was about what kind of galaxy they wanted to live in. The aggressive species wanted a galaxy where the strong ruled the weak and mercy was seen as weakness. Humans and their allies wanted a galaxy where different species could work together and help each other. Zethkar, she said, what do you think about using the energy pulse on the enemy species? It would make them more peaceful like it did to your people. The young alien was quiet for a long moment. I do not know if it is right to change someone without their permission. But I also know that my people were not truly free when we were controlled by our aggressive instincts. The energy pulse freed us to become better than we were, Lisa nodded. It was a complex moral question without easy answers. But she knew that sometimes leaders had to make difficult choices. The safety of billions of innocent people was at stake. She made her decision. Dr. Carter, begin working on a way to create a controlled energy pulse. We will use it only if we have no other choice. But we need to be ready. The preparations began immediately. Scientists from dozens of species worked together to understand the neural networks of the aggressive aliens. Engineers designed new weapons that could generate the precise energy patterns needed. Military officers planned how to deploy the pulse in the middle of a battle. Lisa stood at the window again and looked out at the stars. Somewhere out there, enemy fleets were gathering to destroy everything she cared about. But she was not afraid. Humans had already proven that they could stand up to impossible odds. Now they would prove that they could do it again while staying true to their values. The galaxy was about to change once more, and Lisa would be at the center of it all. The final battle took place near the edge of the galaxy, far from any inhabited worlds. Lisa stood on the bridge of the Defiant, now upgraded with technology from a dozen different species. Around her, the largest fleet in galactic history prepared for war. The human fleet had grown to over 200 ships, but they were joined by vessels from their new allies. Zephyrian cruisers flew alongside human destroyers. Altarian medical ships waited behind the battle lines. Even the peaceful vegan farmers had sent cargo ships filled with supplies. On the other side of the battlefield, General Thane Korax commanded a fleet of 800 warships. The Dominion of Keth had brought their massive battleships. The Hegemony of Worlds had sent their carrier fleets. The savage clans had arrived with ships designed for nothing but destruction. "All ships report ready, Commander," Jake Sullivan announced. He had been promoted to captain and was now Lisa's second in command. "The enemy fleet is moving into attack formation," Lisa looked at the tactical display. The enemy had arranged their ships in a traditional battle formation designed to maximize their firepower advantage. They were confident that their superior numbers would win the day, but Lisa had a different plan. Hidden throughout the Allied fleet were special transmitters designed by Dr. Carter and her team. When activated, they would send out the neural pulse that could change how the enemy species thought about war and peace. "Dr. Carter, are the transmitters ready?" Lisa asked. "Yes, Commander. But I want to remind you that this is still experimental. We do not know exactly how it will affect each species." Lisa nodded. She had spent many sleepless nights thinking about this decision. Using the pulse meant changing the enemy without their permission. It went against everything she believed about freedom and choice. But the alternative was the destruction of human civilization and the deaths of billions of innocent people. General Korax appeared on the communication screen. He was a massive alien with 4 arms and skin like black metal. His voice was deep and filled with hatred. "Human Commander, you have poisoned the galaxy with your weak ideas about mercy and cooperation. Today we will restore the natural order." Lisa stepped forward. "General, it does not have to be this way. We can find a peaceful solution to our differences." The general laughed, a sound like metal grinding against metal. "Peace is for the weak. Today you will learn what happens to species that refuse to follow the law of the jungle." The screen went dark and the enemy fleet began to advance. Lisa watched as hundreds of warships moved toward her position. Their weapons were already charging, and she could see fighter squadrons launching from their carriers. "All ships, prepare for battle," she ordered. "Remember, we are not just fighting for humanity. We are fighting for the right of all species to choose their own path." The battle began with a massive exchange of weapons fire. Energy beams and missiles filled the space between the two fleets. Several human ships were destroyed in the first few minutes, but the Allies gave as good as they got. Captain Torres, now commanding a squadron of destroyers, reported over the comm. "Lisa, their ships are tougher than the Zephyrians. Our weapons are not doing much damage." Lisa had expected this. The enemy species had been fighting wars for thousands of years. Their ships were designed to survive in the harshest battles. But she had been counting on their overconfidence. "Execute Plan Beta," she ordered. "All ships, fall back and draw them into the center of our formation." The Allied fleet began to retreat, making it look like they were being defeated. The enemy took the bait and followed them, eager to finish the battle quickly. Soon, the aggressive species were surrounded by the Allied ships, exactly where Lisa wanted them. "Dr. Carter, activate the transmitters," Lisa said the special devices throughout the Allied fleet began to glow with energy. But instead of destroying the enemy ships, they sent out waves of neural energy that passed through their hulls and affected the minds of their crews. At first, nothing seemed to happen. The enemy ships continued to fire their weapons and advance on the Allied fleet. But then, one by one, they began to slow down. Their weapons fire became less accurate. Some ships stopped moving entirely. General Korax appeared on the screen again, but his expression was different. The hatred was gone from his eyes, replaced by confusion. "What have you done to us?" "We have given you the gift of choice," Lisa said. "For the first time in your lives, you can think for yourselves instead of just following your aggressive instincts." The general looked around his bridge as if seeing it for the first time. "I do not understand. Why do we fight? What is the point of all this violence?" Similar conversations were happening throughout the enemy fleet. Soldiers who had never questioned their orders were suddenly asking why they were fighting. Captains who had spent their lives in battle were wondering if there was a better way to live. Some ships continued to fight, their crews less affected by the neural pulse. But most of the enemy fleet had stopped attacking. They were too busy trying to understand their new way of thinking. Lisa opened a channel to the entire battlefield. "All ships, cease fire. The battle is over." The space around them became quiet. For the first time in hours, damaged ships from both sides floated in the darkness, their crews trying to understand what had happened. Over the next few hours, Lisa met with the enemy commanders. General Korax was the first to request a meeting. When he appeared on the screen, he looked like a different person entirely. "Commander Morgan, I owe you an apology," he said. "I spent my entire life believing that strength meant hurting others. Now I see how wrong I was." Lisa felt a mix of relief and sadness. The neural pulse had worked, but she could see the confusion in the general's eyes. He was struggling to understand his new way of thinking. "General, you do not need to apologize. You were doing what you thought was right based on how you were raised." "But I was going to destroy your entire species," he said. "I was going to kill billions of innocent people. How can you forgive that?" Lisa thought about this question. Because holding on to anger and hatred only creates more violence. If we want to build a better galaxy, we have to start by forgiving each other. The other enemy commanders had similar reactions. Some were grateful for their new perspective on life. Others were angry about having their minds changed without permission. All of them were confused about what to do next. Dr. Carter worked with alien scientists to help the affected crews adjust to their new way of thinking. It was not easy. Many of them had never experienced emotions like empathy or compassion before. "Commander, some of them are having serious psychological problems," Dr. Carter reported. Changing their neural patterns so suddenly has left them feeling lost and confused. Lisa felt guilty about this. She had made the decision to use the neural pulse, and now she had to live with the consequences. What can we do to help them? Time and patience, Dr. Carter said. We need to teach them how to live with their new emotions. It will take months, maybe years for them to fully adapt. Meanwhile, news of the battle spread throughout the galaxy. The species that had not been involved watched with amazement as their most aggressive neighbors suddenly became peaceful. Some were happy about the change. Others were worried about what it meant for the balance of power. The Galactic Council called an emergency meeting to discuss what had happened. Lisa found herself standing before representatives of over 100 different species, all of them wanting to know how humans had achieved such a complete victory without destroying their enemies. The Altarian representative spoke first. Commander Morgan, what you have accomplished is remarkable. You have ended thousands of years of warfare without massive loss of life. But not everyone was pleased. The representative from the Centauri Republic looked angry. You have fundamentally changed entire species without their consent. How is this different from conquest? Lisa had been expecting this question. The difference is that we did not enslave them or take their resources. We gave them the ability to choose peace over violence. They are still free to make their own decisions. The debate went on for hours. Some species praised humanity for bringing peace to the galaxy. Others accused them of mental manipulation. In the end, the Council voted to accept what had happened, but to ban the use of neural weapons in the future. After the meeting, Lisa walked through the corridors of the Council building. She was tired and emotionally drained. The weight of what she had done was starting to sink in. Zethkar, the young Zephyrian, found her sitting alone in a quiet garden. "Commander, you look troubled." "I am," Lisa admitted. "I changed entire species without asking their permission. I took away their free will and replaced it with my own ideas about right and wrong." Zethkar sat down beside her. "May I tell you something? Before the neural pulse, my people lived in constant fear. We were afraid of being weak, afraid of showing mercy, afraid of being different from the group. Now we are free to be individuals. You did not take away our free will. You gave it to us?" Lisa looked at him with new understanding. "But what about the species we just changed? They did not ask for this gift." "No, they did not," Zethkar agreed. "But sometimes the most important gifts are the ones we do not know we need." 6 months later, Lisa stood on the observation deck of the first joint human-alien research station.